Hey, what's going on everyone? I've got a bit of a different video for you today. So we're actually on our way to meet up with another YouTuber named Courtney, who runs a channel called SquyreStudio. And she actually has a cool opportunity of competing in a $50,000 gardening competition. So in this competition, there's a whole bunch of different categories that she has to compete in, and one of those is growing the world's hottest pepper. So I'm on my way to her house now, and I'm gonna kind of give her some tips and tricks on how to grow a super hot pepper, as well as I'm gonna give her some seeds to start out with. And we're just gonna kind of sit down and talk with her, see a little bit about what this competition's about, what her channel's about, and definitely go check it out. Hey everyone, so I'm here with Courtney at her garden, and she's actually in the Johnny Appleseed, what was it again?
Organic Invitational.
Johnny Appleseed Organic Invitational. So there's a whole bunch of different competitions in it, and I'm gonna be helping her out with growing the world's hottest pepper. So if you want to tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So the competition kicked off at the beginning of February, and basically there's 6 of us competing, and within the competition there's 6 subcategories. So in the competition we're having to grow the heaviest tomato, the heaviest squash, the largest sweet potato, the hottest pepper, and then we're doing some social media voting. So we're trying to get people to kind of rally behind us to vote on a container arrangement that we're growing, and then also our favorite gardening hack.
So definitely go check out our channel and make sure to hit that subscribe button. So anyways, I've got some pepper seeds for you. So there's 3 different varieties in there. I've got the Carolina Reaper, I have the White Moruga Scorpion, and lastly I have the Grounded Roots Ghost, which is that hybrid that I grew on this channel last year. So hopefully these peppers work out pretty well for you in this competition.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to growing these.
Awesome.
Okay, so what I wanted to do next was just take Colin around the garden and kind of talk a little bit about the different microclimates that I have here in my backyard. Just because with this being my first season actually trying to grow out peppers, I'm not 100% sure where's going to be the best area in my garden to plant them for their permanent home. So first up is this area, which is closest to my house. It gets pretty much what would be full sun, but the sun starts to set behind the house about 2:30 to 3. So once it comes over the mountains, it's about 6 to 7 o'clock in the morning, depending upon the season. So it gets sun from about 7 to about 3. And I know here, especially like being in the city, it gets really hot around 12 to 1. Yeah. So another piece of advice I was wondering is, do you use any shade cloth on your peppers?
So I don't, but I am thinking of investing in some shade cloth, because the previous years I've had some sunburn on my leaves of the peppers, which usually doesn't do anything too bad unless it gets really bad, but having some shade wouldn't help, or wouldn't hurt, I guess, in the afternoon.
Okay, cool. Because I know, like, so I've seen some people up north who grow peppers saying that peppers love heat, peppers love heat, peppers love heat, but their climate is completely different from ours.
Absolutely, yeah. They love heat, but not when it's 110 degrees
Exactly,
outside.
And then the UV index here gets so high that my biggest worry would be the leaves burning or the fruit scorching just from the intensity of the sun. So, okay, I'm glad to know that that was a legitimate concern. I wasn't just pulling that out of the air. So there's this area here. So like I said, it gets sun from about 7 a.m. to about 2:30 to 3, and then the sun starts to set behind the house. So I have basically just raised beds here. I have 4 raised beds. And so then my next question is, did peppers do better for you? Do you plant them in the ground, or do you plant them in pots or raised beds?
So I do all my stuff in pots, mostly just because I haven't made the investment into raised beds yet, but raised beds do work really well for peppers.
Okay.
So I don't see any reason that they wouldn't work well in these beds.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Because my biggest fear or concern is that it would be too hot if I put it in a pot. But knowing that you did it successfully, that kind of helps reassure me that if I wanted to grow it in a pot.
Want it, yeah, they're pretty versatile. They'll grow most places.
Cool. Because I did try growing flowers in pots my first season here, and they almost all burned.
Oh, geez.
So, but I think I left them in full sun all day.
Yeah.
And I started them at the hottest point in the season.
Yep.
So they didn't really have enough time to establish a good root system.
Yeah. So where I grow my peppers, they don't get much morning sun.
Okay.
But they do get a lot of kind of like mid-afternoon to evening sun. And then in the late evening, they're back into shade again. But overall, they probably get at least 8 to 10 hours a day.
Okay, cool.
So as long as you're getting about 8 to 10 hours a day, you should be fine.
Okay, great. Well, then next I'll show you the area of my garden that does get full sun, and it probably does get about 8 to 10 hours a day.
Awesome.
So let's take a look. The second area of the garden that I wanted to show you is one that does get like really full sun.
Okay.
So once the sun comes over the mountains in that direction, this area probably gets sun from about 6 or 7 a.m. to about 6 or 7 p.m.
Okay, so that is a lot of sun.
Yeah, so it definitely gets like full sun, about 10 to 12 hours a day. I do have to say that the soil in these beds is probably the most fertile of all the soil in the garden. There's like tons of worms, and we top it up with soil and compost a few times throughout the season, as well as we're better about being consistent with fertilizing these beds than all the other ones. So this was another area that I was considering growing the peppers, but I wasn't sure if this would be too much sun for them.
So yeah, I would definitely say that this would be too much sun. But also I think it might be too much fertilizer too.
Okay.
So one of the tricks to actually growing a even hotter pepper is to cut down on the fertilizer a little bit, especially nitrogen. And when you starve it of nitrogen a bit, you don't want to starve it so much that the leaves are getting yellow.
Right.
But when you starve it just a little bit of nitrogen, it actually activates the capsaicin producing parts of the pepper to make it a lot hotter. So you might take a 1 million Scoville pepper all the way up to like a 1.5 million Scoville pepper by doing that.
Okay, see, I had no idea that was a thing. So I'm like super glad that I asked about this, because I would have been sitting here thinking lots of nitrogen, lots of phosphorus, so I can get like lots of leaves and fruit. But if I'm focusing on growing the hottest pepper, I'm really glad to know what tips and tricks there are. So I'll be sure not to over fertilize the pepper.
Awesome.
Okay, and then I did have another question for you about how long do you start your peppers in seed starting trays, right?
I do. I actually just started mine a couple days ago.
Okay.
So yeah, any time, usually like late February to early March is a pretty good time to start them here.
Perfect, because I was gonna ask, when do you usually start yours, and then how long do you leave them in their seed?
So I'll leave them in there for about a month to a month and a half.
Okay.
I usually bring my peppers outside like mid to late April. So after, usually wait like 1 or 2 weeks after the last danger of frost. And then usually that's a good time to bring them outside.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, that's great to know. I'll show you my final microclimate. I don't think I'll be growing the pepper in this area, but we'll still take a look so you can see the area. Okay, and then the last microclimate that I wanted to talk about is this area that I have against this cinder block wall. So basically in the winter, it's nice. I can grow greens here, and they stay pretty warm throughout the winter because of the heat that radiates off this wall. But in the summer, it, like I said, retains a lot of heat and radiates it back. So I can pretty much only grow like heat-loving crops here in this bed. So I usually grow like sunflowers or zinnias because they do well in a hotter climate. And then the odd thing is, because the sun rises over this direction, this area actually doesn't get sun until about 11 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if for peppers it was going to be better for them to get morning sun or evening sun.
So mine mostly get evening sun, kind of like I was saying before. So this would probably be most similar to how I grow my peppers. But this year I'm actually going to be growing them on the opposite side of my house. So it's going to be actually more similar to that first area that we talked about that gets mostly the morning sun. So I personally don't think it matters too much, as long as it's either getting morning or evening, because it is too much to get like completely full sun here. So I think either here or at that other spot would be perfect.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And then you said you had a couple more tips and tricks for me?
I do. So there's 2 other ways you can use to get some super hot peppers that would be hotter than normal. The first one is that after they start growing, and they're growing pretty well, once you have some good green colored peppers that have grown onto the plant, before they start ripening, you want to start starving the plants of water.
Oh, okay.
So basically only water them once the leaves start drooping like crazy and they don't look very good, right?
Okay.
Don't let it go so far that they die.
Right.
But when you starve it of water and kind of stress the plant a lot like that, it really helps to promote that extra heat coming in.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then finally, once the peppers do fully ripen, leave them on the plant even longer, right? So once your plant fully ripens to a nice like red color, if you're growing the Carolina Reaper.
Mm-hmm.
I would probably leave it on an additional 2 to 3 weeks on the plant, which will
Okay.
really help get that heat like extra hot.
Okay, good. That's awesome. Now, do you ever have any issues with like pests, squirrels, or anything? Eating peppers?
I haven't had any issues with squirrels. The big thing is aphids.
Aphids.
That's what I mostly have trouble with. And what I use for that is a mixture of neem oil.
Okay.
So it's organic. I don't know if that matters to you or not, but a lot of people do like the organics.
Yes.
So neem oil is organic. So basically what you do is you put, I think it's like 1 or 2 teaspoons into a gallon of water.
Okay.
Put a couple drops of like a soap in there. It doesn't really matter what kind of soap. And that kind of helps suspend the oil in the water.
Okay.
And then just spray your plants down with that in the late evening after the sun kind of goes down. And that'll kill any pests that are on it.
Okay, cool. Yes, because, it's not going to help if I try to grow a hot pepper but then the plant dies. from aphids.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, cool. Thank you so much. I really
welcome.
appreciate all those tips and tricks, and I will definitely be implementing those on my quest to grow the hottest pepper.
Awesome.
So thank you so much for
You're very
joining me.
welcome. I wish you good luck on your competition.
Thank you.